Hey, this is the Antisocial Socialite. How's everybody doing on this wonderful 1st of July? I hope everyone is doing well. This is just a quick live, literally like 10, 15 minutes because I'm running somewhere as per usual and I'm just listening to a live stream put out by Irene Yvette and I would have to do a proper video in order to be able to address all the points, but I don't even know. My blood is boiling too much. I had really high hopes for this live stream, and I don't want to say disappointed, but definitely I feel like she made a lot of valid points, and the way she presented her arguments, they were really good. Okay, I want to say that. But what really frustrated me is what is at the heart of the matter, and the conversation is why women are gravitating towards the divestment movement. Okay? And recently that's been my thorn in the flesh, the gripe of my life. And the thing about the divesting movement is, for me, and this is probably why I was disappointed with what Irene said, she did touch on it, and I'm still listening to the video, so I can't really go into detail. She's already said a lot. And basically, Kristen Kerrison was talking to somebody about why these women, they're frustrated or they have issues with black men or whatever, or why they feel like they're not being heard. And the ladies who called into the show were talking about how black women are sexually abused and they don't feel like anybody hears them. They feel like when it comes onto black women's issues, there's nobody really taking interest in their issues. It's like, why is the whole world literally up in arms over a black man who was like a porn star with a white wife and a drug addiction and a criminal record? And yet, had it been a black woman, and that was the whole thing that prompted the live stream, the black female protester who was allegedly raped and murdered, where is her marching and posters? And I just feel like, I feel so frustrated. I feel so frustrated and so emotional because I'm so torn, okay? And the reason why I'm torn is this. Not everything, but a lot of things are based upon a falsehood. And to try to build on something that is false, it's just like, what is the point, okay? Black Lives Matter is not an organization that is the pro-black community, okay? Even Irene herself acknowledged that Black Lives Matter is a trashy organization. And for people who support Black Lives Matter, I'm really sorry. But when you look at the undertones, when you look at the reasons why Black Lives Matter actually exists, it completely undermines the progression of the black community. Because Black Lives Matter doesn't care about the lives that really matter, okay? Heterosexual families are what build a community. So if Black Lives Matter is pro-LGBT and against patriarchy and against black men thriving and doing well, because I'm not saying that they don't care about black women doing well, but what I'm saying is for every country community that's dominating and doing well, they have patriarchy. It's only in the black community where you have the gynocratic rule. You have a lot of women in power, in positions of office. You have a lot of women in position of education, and obviously in the societal side, you have a matriarchy where you have women constantly leading the families and heading the families. Now, outside of the West, what I believe is that there is a very dim view on women, which makes men feel justified in abusing them. Okay? Sorry, not in the West. In the West, I feel that women have become so much the abusers that men do not even sympathize with women's plight anymore. And I get it. Why is it if a woman is assaulted or something happens, men do not seem to go rallying. They always want to ask, well, did you do this? Did you do that? How did you bring this upon yourself? And even I would say that as well to an extent, because at the end of the day, people have to be realistic and be responsible and personally accountable. This is definitely something that Irene Yvette has talked about, and she even brought up again that if a child is being abused, apparently 60%, so 6 out of every 10 children, 2 out of every 3 children or girls in the black community can say by the age of 18 they've been a victim of some type of sexual abuse or assault. It's no wonder black women operate the way they operate. And I have a video that's coming. It is in the pipeline, but because it's of a sensitive nature, I have to try and do a bit more research, which means it's taking me ages to kind of put it together. And it's a video on the impact of childhood sexual abuse and a woman's ability to be a parent. Because if you're saying 60% of people in the black community have been victims of sexual abuse, then that means that the degree to which they're going to parent, the quality and the things that they're going to tolerate and allow, it all factors into why we have the communities that we have. Okay? So I agree that if people are victims of abuse, they often cannot talk about it. Okay? And that is brushed under the carpet. I do not agree when they say, however, that the reason why the perpetrator is protected is because there's a fear of the police. I feel that the fear of police and the unwillingness to report to the police about the abuser are not the same thing. Okay, I feel that people have contempt for the police and distrust for the police, period. It doesn't matter what the crime is, they personally would not want to get the police involved. And then not wanting to kind of rock the family boat is a completely separate issue. Okay? So I don't take it as people don't want to get the police involved because they're afraid of what will happen to the man involved. Okay? Because even children of other races who are victims of sexual abuse, they do not want to report the abuse because they're afraid of what could happen to the person. They're afraid they won't be believed or whatever. So the point that was made that people in the black community don't want to address this issue because they're frightened something might happen to the man, I don't believe that. I just believe that there's a lack of attitude in general when it comes on to addressing things the right way. Okay? When it comes on to things like abuse, when it comes on to things like following policies and procedures, when it comes on to even just something as simple as making a complaint, like how many times do black people really address it the correct way? For example, if we were illegally stopped by the police, would we know what to do? Would we know what our rights are? Or would we just lash out and then after being baited into reacting, give the person who's kind of taunting us exactly what they want so that they have that excuse to brutalize us? Okay? The whole Black Lives Matter thing is nothing more than, to me, a pitching of a race war, because we all know race is a hot topic. We all know that it's something that gets people very frustrated. And so when you bring up the topic of race and racism, it's going to shake a lot of people, because there are some people who, they don't even realize that they have racist ideals. Or, if you were to ask a white person, which black person would you like to trade places with? A lot of them would not want to trade. They might try to be sympathetic, but they definitely know that they benefit from having white skin. And so they're not going to all of the fact that they march and they stand beside, black people, it doesn't change the fact that the dominant society, or the people who dominate society, the people who run this system, they want it to be set up and designed in a particular way to keep people at a certain level. Whether those people who are in the elite class are white, black, or whatever, they want to remain at the top and basically have everybody else in some type of subservient position. So if you believe that Black Lives Matter is really about helping black people, that's already a flaw in your belief system, in my opinion. And Irene doesn't believe that. She knows Black Lives Matter is not really a black organization. It's not really, again, for the black people. So, again, Crystalline Kerrison and her crew, I mean, she said this is not about Crystalline. It's really about addressing some of her talking points and really looking at why women gravitate towards her movement. And I do agree with Irene that these women, they feel disenfranchised. They feel let down by the black community. And the only people who are really willing to listen to what they have to say are women like Crystalline. And Crystalline and her kind, they have an agenda. They are divisive. And I tell you why I say women like Chrissy, Crystalline, Tanya, a lot of them are divisive, is because they do not hold women accountable. Okay, if you're saying below the age of 18, 2 out of every 3 girls or children are abused. I mean, I think it was it 3 out of 4 girls, or 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 4 boys or something are abused during childhood. Okay, it's obviously the responsibility of the parents to protect their own children. But the problem is this: those children are so destroyed or so corrupted by the time they start hitting puberty. It's kind of like they've already gone so far into adulthood as kids. It's very hard to bring them back into their age-appropriate frame of mind. What do I mean? When days, before the days of 24-hour TV and the internet, you had conversations you weren't privy to. There were concepts you had no idea of. Your innocence to an extent was preserved and protected. But now we live in a culture that does not protect innocence. And this is why I got frustrated with Irene's commentary, because yes, Irene, you're like 90% correct. But when this brother, he came in the comment section, he was like, women will not get protection until they submit. There's truth to that, because a lot of the problems in the black community, they do stem from these broken families. And if the women have the reproductive rights and control, then ultimately it's up to them to fix up themselves. And I understand, you feel disenfranchised because when you were molested, nobody came to your rescue. But the same men you're looking to for protection are just as broken as you are, because they come from the same broken home. And although Irene does not deny that, she does talk about that. She agrees with that one side is, although she does agree that, one side is abusing the other and that both sides feed into the other's abuse. So it's not like, and this is the thing that I don't like with the Divest crew. They always talk only about the victimhood of the women, but they don't talk about the contribution or the part that these women play in their own demise. Okay? I had a video. I tried to upload it twice. See, this is just one of those days. I just have to get online. And I tried to upload it twice, and twice YouTube took it down because it showed violence. So basically, there's a woman and she's arguing with a man, and there's like 2 other guys there, and it's confusing about who's related to who. But it looks like she's in a relationship with this this big chubby guy, and first it opens with her throwing water or a drink over him, and then practically just hitting him with the bottle. She goes off, she comes back, she's shouting in his face. Then like friends try to create a barrier between him and her because it looked like the man that she was shouting at was going to hit her. I'm actually going to do a video on it. She kept coming back, and then she kept antagonizing the guy, trying to hit him. And then afterwards, he lost it. And after he walked away, initially, she would not let up. And he swung for her. And then the two guys intervened. And I think one of them said, like, you're not going to hit a woman. And the guy that was getting assaulted by the woman, he just knocked the two of them out, man. Like, even when they kept trying to come back to fight him, he just pounded them into the ground. And it's like, this is how women sometimes, they instigate situations where they end up being the victim. And then they say, well, it's not our fault. It's not our fault. We just need to be protected. And it's like, well, you know what? Two guys have just been knocked out. One of them, if he'd fallen and hit his head on something, he could have died. He could sustain an injury that he doesn't see now. And as a result of that punch in the head and that blow, because the first guy who got knocked down, he came back with a broom. And as he tried to fight the guy, he dropped the broom and the guy picked it up and whacked him with it. So the injuries that he sustained as a result of that fight, trying to do an honorable thing for a woman who just doesn't know when to stop, could cost him his life in a short time because he could have an unseen head injury. It's things like this that black women need to just stop. I mean, the women who, and this is why I say they're divisive, the women who actually promote leaving the black community to go to other races of men, all you have to do is stop dating dusties. And I understand you can say, well, if these women have had bad experiences with men, why would they trust black men? Why would they want to submit to black men? But it always will go back to the women. What kind of man was your father? What kind of men were you around? What kind of protection did you have growing up as a child? It will always go back to this issue of, while you were in your most vulnerable stage, while your personality was being formed, while your fears and personality were being generated, what kind of environment was created for you? If you were raised in an environment that was completely dysfunctional, and that's why it sounds really harsh to say, but I don't even know if I should say it. This is why some people say, just let the black community go to the wall, the black community is dead, or just go and build a new community with people who actually want to build. Because there are too many people who are dysfunctional, too many people who have agendas, too many people who are too divisive to really be able to be worked with. Okay? And I get it. If the only people who are listening are the Chrissies and the Chrysalians, and these women cannot see that these women are actually, they're sending them on a full mission because they're misdiagnosing the problem. They're looking at the symptoms and then they're just giving it a false diagnosis, which obviously is not going to lead to healing. It's going to lead to more problems. You can't blame these women because they're looking for support. But calling on all black men to just randomly support women, it's like, as long as women are not willing to collectively admit this is how they're failing black men, it's going to be very hard for these black men to want to come back to the table anyway. Because it's just like when you're having an argument with somebody, you're both in the wrong, but one person, like the other person just wants you to take all the blame. But you're like, well, if I'm not going to take part of the blame, I'm not taking any of the blame. Until you take some of the blame, I'm not taking any. And then it becomes like a whole, instead of blame sharing and saying, this is where I messed up, this is where you messed up, I'm willing to accept this if you're willing to accept that, and you both meet in the middle. The gender war thing is really about causing division. which ultimately means that we never get anywhere because we're always trying to figure out who we can blame. And although I'm critical of men as well as women, I'm always critical of women more because they are the ones with the right and they benefit from the law. They benefit from the current climate that gives them a lot of freedom to do whatever they like with no repercussions. I mean, look at this woman who has 7 children by at least 3 men. And the only thing she's thinking about is, I want to go and do, bald head, hoe-ish. I can go and do hot girl summer. Now I can smoke weed, drink, and play with my toys without the children interrupting. The men who she had children for are just as low as she is. And she went out and deliberately selected these kind of men. And these men, they were quite happy to deal with her because they're on the same level. Okay? This is one of the reasons why the black community cannot grow and it cannot function, because healthy, productive people are being outproduced by people who don't have the right standards. It shouldn't be the people with the lowest intentions who are getting, who are having 7 children. It should be the productive men. And the black community has been engineered backwards in order to ensure there's always going to be these problems. Because under a matriarchal system, you cannot build the strength in the men that you want in order for them to be the protectors and the providers. Like, it just doesn't occur to them because they spent decades growing up under women. Okay, and you can't address this issue until you address the fact that the black community is a matriarchy, and until black, despite the fact that they've been let down in many ways by black men, that they have to go in search of the good men. Until black women understand and acknowledge that that's what they have to do, there will never be any black community. I mean, I get it. There's some people who don't want a community. They just like the gender warring. They just like the fighting. Okay? And those people, they just need to be forgotten because they're not about building anything. So there's no point to dialogue with them because all they want to do is point the finger. But the ones who claim that they want to build, they also have to come to the table with the right mindset of building. And so I'm going to have to sit down, listen to it, maybe try and just cut it really short, just give my thoughts on this piece. But I'm sorry, Irene. I mean, I haven't got to the whole video, but if that bit is not, that's where you should stop, because that's the thing that underpins the whole conversation. If you have weak men who don't know how to really protect women, they don't have a community mindset. If you have children being abused left, right, and center, the question has to become, how did we get here? How did we get like this? How did we get like this? And the answer is, there's been a systematic breakdown of the black family. There's been a deliberate, concerted effort to elevate the black woman so that she will automatically, through hypergamy, despise her own men. Because she despises her own men, she fails her own sons. They become disenfranchised, they become gang members, they become uneducated bums. And because of the contempt that they have for their mothers, many of them are not interested in protecting their women. It's really not that hard. It's not that hard to understand why we're in the situation we're in. You have sons, but you're not investing in them. You have sons, but you're not providing good masculine role models for them. You think that they're a good son because they do all of the things that you want them to do. Cooking, cleaning, helping you around the house. And then when they grow up to be a female in a man's body, then you turn around and call them a bitch and you call them a wife and, you're lazy and you're lame and you're this and you're that. So which one is it? That's all I got for this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Video is on the way. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Anti-Socialite signing out. Peace.